Social media has become a very strong influence in modern life. It affects how people communicate, how they share ideas, and how they see the world around them. For advanced English learners, social media can be both helpful and challenging at the same time. When it is used carefully, it can support language growth. When it is used without awareness, it can create problems for learning. On the positive side, social media gives learners constant exposure to real, everyday English. People use English in posts, comments, videos, and online discussions in a natural way. By reading and listening to this content, learners can see how native speakers express opinions, tell stories, and use humor. They can also notice how tone changes depending on the situation, such as formal topics, casual chats, or emotional conversations. This regular exposure can improve listening skills, increase vocabulary, and help learners feel more confident when understanding natural spoken and written English. However, social media also has clear disadvantages. Most online communication is fast and informal. Many users prefer short sentences, slang, emojis, and simplified grammar. Over time, this can reduce accuracy, especially in formal writing and structured speaking. Learners may start copying incorrect patterns or avoid complex sentence structures. Social media can also affect attention span. Because content is short and constantly changing, it becomes harder to focus on long articles, books, or detailed explanations. This can slow the development of deeper thinking and advanced language skills. Another important issue is comparison. Social media often encourages people to measure success through likes, shares, and comments. For learners, this can reduce confidence. They may feel that their English is not good enough or that others are more fluent. This pressure can create fear of making mistakes, which is harmful to language learning. Understanding that progress is personal and gradual helps learners avoid this trap. Social media also strongly shapes opinions and beliefs. Algorithms are designed to show users content that matches their past behavior, such as what they like, search for, or watch. This creates an echo chamber, where people repeatedly see the same ideas and viewpoints. Over time, this limits exposure to different opinions. For advanced English learners, this is important because language growth depends on variety. Reading different arguments, styles, and perspectives helps learners understand complex ideas and develop critical thinking skills. Confidence is another area influenced by social media. Many learners feel more comfortable using English online because they have time to think before responding. Writing comments or posts allows them to practice vocabulary and sentence structure in a low-pressure environment. This can be a helpful step toward building confidence. However, online confidence does not always transfer to real-life conversations. Face-to-face communication requires quick responses, clear pronunciation, and understanding body language. Because social media lacks these elements, learners may struggle when speaking spontaneously or joining deep discussions in person. Social media has also changed how people consume information. News and educational content are often presented in short headlines or brief videos. While this makes information easy to access, it can reduce deep understanding. Complex topics like science, politics, or social issues need detailed explanations and advanced language. When learners rely only on short content, they may miss important vocabulary, logical connectors, and well-structured arguments. Advanced English development requires reading and listening to longer materials that challenge both comprehension and thinking. Finally, social media plays a role in identity and self-expression. People create online identities through profiles, photos, and the language they use. Words are often chosen carefully to sound confident, intelligent, or funny. For English learners, this can be motivating because it encourages clear and natural expression. At the same time, it can create pressure to sound perfect. Fear of making mistakes may stop learners from participating. When learners understand that mistakes are a normal and necessary part of language growth, they can use social media as a practice space rather than a performance stage. In conclusion, social media is neither completely good nor completely bad for advanced English learners. Its impact depends on how consciously it is used. When learners balance social media with deep reading, active listening, and real-life communication, it can become a powerful tool for growth rather than a distraction. Social media also affects listening skills in a special and powerful way. Short videos, live streams, podcasts, and audio clips expose learners to many different accents, speaking speeds, and communication styles. This wide variety can strongly improve listening comprehension at an advanced level. Learners hear informal speech, idiomatic expressions, natural pauses, and real emotional reactions. This kind of exposure helps them understand how English sounds in real life, not just in textbooks or classrooms. However, there is also a downside. Constantly switching from one video to another can reduce focus and concentration. True listening development requires attention and reflection. Learners benefit much more when they pause a video, replay difficult sections, and think about what they hear. Actively analyzing pronunciation, vocabulary, and sentence patterns is far more effective than scrolling endlessly without purpose. Another important topic is digital etiquette and tone. On social media, misunderstandings happen very easily because written messages do not include voice, facial expressions, or body language. For advanced learners, understanding tone becomes especially important. Tone is communicated through word choice, sentence length, punctuation, and even emojis. A sentence that feels neutral to one person may sound rude, cold, or aggressive to another. Learning how to soften opinions, show respect, and disagree politely is essential for effective online communication. These skills are not only useful on social media, but are also extremely valuable in professional and academic environments. Social media also introduces learners to global English. English on social platforms is used by people from many different countries, not only native speakers. Each group may use English in slightly different ways, influenced by culture and local language habits. This exposure helps learners understand that English is a global language with many variations. At the same time, it requires flexibility and open-mindedness. Advanced learners must learn to recognize context and decide when strict accuracy is necessary and when clear communication is the main goal. Productivity and time management are also closely connected to social media use. Social media can easily become a distraction. Many learners open an app with the intention of practicing English, but end up spending hours scrolling without focus. Using social media intentionally can completely change this experience. Following educational accounts, joining discussion groups, saving useful content, and setting clear time limits help turn passive scrolling into active learning. Awareness is the key difference between useful exposure and wasted time. Mental health is another important factor. Constant comparison with others can harm motivation and self-worth. For language learners, seeing very fluent speakers online may cause frustration or self-doubt. It is important to remember that progress happens at different speeds for different people. Social media often shows results, but hides the long effort behind them. Learners grow faster when they focus on personal improvement instead of comparing themselves to others. Social media also plays a role in how language changes and evolves. New words, expressions, slang, and trends appear quickly online. Advanced learners should stay curious and open to these changes, but also selective. Not every new trend or expression is appropriate for professional, academic, or formal communication. Understanding register and context helps learners choose the right language for the right situation. This awareness is what separates fluent speakers from truly advanced English users. Another important area to explore is how social media affects critical thinking and reasoning skills. Many platforms reward quick reactions rather than careful thought. Users are encouraged to like, share, or comment immediately, often without fully reading or understanding the content. For advanced English learners, this habit can limit the ability to analyze complex ideas and arguments. Strong language skills at the C1 and C2 levels require the ability to evaluate information, recognize bias, and respond with clear, well-structured opinions. When learners slow down and reflect before reacting, social media can become a space for intellectual growth rather than passive consumption. Social media also changes how debates and disagreements happen. Online discussions often become emotional and polarized. People may use strong language, sarcasm, or personal attacks instead of logical reasoning. For learners, this environment can be confusing and overwhelming. It is important to recognize the difference between persuasive language and aggressive language. Learning how to disagree calmly, support opinions with reasons, and acknowledge other viewpoints is a valuable communication skill. These abilities are essential not only online, but also in academic discussions, workplace meetings, and public speaking. Finally, social media influences memory and learning habits. Constant notifications, messages, and endless content streams interrupt concentration. Frequent interruptions make deep learning more difficult and reduce long-term memory. Advanced language learning requires focused attention, especially when mastering subtle grammar patterns, collocations, and nuanced meanings. When learners control distractions and create focused learning moments, social media becomes a useful tool rather than a barrier to progress. In the end, social media is most effective when it is used with intention, awareness, and balance. When learners slow down, think critically, and engage actively, social media can support advanced English development instead of limiting it. Learners who try to multitask while scrolling through social media may feel busy, but in reality, they often learn very little. True language development requires focused attention. Developing mindful habits, such as turning off notifications during study time or choosing specific moments for learning, helps protect cognitive focus and supports deeper language processing. This kind of awareness allows learners to notice advanced vocabulary, subtle grammar patterns, and meaningful connections between ideas. Social media also plays an important role in shaping cultural understanding. Online platforms expose learners to traditions, values, humor, and social issues from many different countries. This exposure is essential for advanced English use because language is deeply connected to culture. Understanding jokes, irony, and cultural references requires more than vocabulary knowledge alone. However, social media often simplifies or exaggerates cultural differences. For this reason, learners should approach content with curiosity, but also with critical awareness, recognizing that online representations may not fully reflect reality. Another area to consider is professional identity and networking. Platforms such as LinkedIn allow users to present themselves professionally in English. Writing profiles, sharing insights, and participating in discussions help learners practice formal and semi-formal language. This experience builds confidence for real-world professional communication. At the same time, learners must understand the boundaries between personal and professional language. Using overly casual expressions in professional contexts can sometimes damage credibility. Advanced learners benefit from observing how professionals in their field use tone, structure, and vocabulary. Social media also affects pronunciation and speaking style in indirect ways. Watching short videos and listening to content creators can influence accent, rhythm, and intonation. When chosen carefully, this exposure can be helpful. However, copying a speaking style without understanding context can sound unnatural. Advanced learners should aim for clarity and adaptability rather than imitation. Being understood and sounding appropriate in different situations is more important than copying a specific accent. Authenticity in language use is another important topic. Social media often encourages performance rather than genuine communication. People may exaggerate opinions or emotions to gain attention. This can influence how learners use English, pushing them toward dramatic or unnatural expressions. True fluency comes from honest communication that matches real intentions. Learning to express ideas clearly, respectfully, and accurately leads to stronger and more natural long-term language skills. Social media also brings ethical responsibilities related to language use. Sharing misinformation, offensive language, or harmful stereotypes can have real consequences. Advanced learners should be aware of how language shapes perception and behavior. Choosing accurate words, checking sources, and communicating responsibly are signs of mature language use. These abilities reflect both high-level proficiency and social awareness. Another valuable topic is the role of silence and listening in online spaces. Social media often rewards constant posting and quick responses, but listening is just as important. Reading thoughtful comments, observing how discussions develop, and learning from others strengthen comprehension and analytical skills. Advanced learners grow not only by speaking and writing, but also by listening carefully and reflecting deeply. Social media also influences emotional expression in English. Emojis, reactions, and informal phrases often replace detailed emotional language. While these tools are useful, relying on them too much can limit emotional vocabulary. Advanced learners should practice expressing feelings with precise and descriptive words instead of symbols. This skill is especially important in storytelling, persuasion, and reflective writing. Another area to examine is the difference between long-form and short-form content. Podcasts, essays, interviews, and extended discussions support advanced language development by exposing learners to complex sentence structures and well-developed arguments. Short videos and brief posts offer convenience, but limited depth. A balanced approach allows learners to enjoy short content while still engaging with longer materials that challenge comprehension and expression. Social media also affects motivation in subtle ways. Positive feedback can encourage learners to practice, while negative comments may reduce confidence. Advanced learners benefit from developing emotional resilience. Understanding that online reactions do not define language ability helps learners stay focused on personal growth. Confidence built on steady improvement is more stable than confidence based on likes or approval. Finally, social media reflects how language continues to evolve in real time. New expressions appear quickly, and meanings change depending on context and community. Advanced learners should remain curious and adaptable while maintaining strong foundations in standard English. This balance allows them to communicate clearly and effectively across different settings without losing precision or accuracy. All of these points show that social media is not simply a tool or a distraction. Its true value depends on how consciously and thoughtfully it is used. Social media is a complex environment that shapes how people use language, how they think, how they manage emotions, and how they interact with others. Understanding this influence allows learners to use social media consciously and strategically as part of advanced English development, rather than letting it control their habits and attention. Another important topic to explore is how social media has changed the way people tell stories. In the past, stories were shared through long conversations, books, letters, or detailed articles. Today, many stories are reduced to short captions, quick videos, or brief posts. This shift affects how ideas are organized and expressed. For advanced English learners, Storytelling skills are essential because they support clear speaking, persuasive writing, and logical thinking. When stories become shorter and faster, learners may lose practice in creating strong openings, clear development, and meaningful conclusions. Practicing longer forms of expression helps maintain depth, coherence, and clarity in language use. Social media also affects how people respond to mistakes. Language mistakes made online are often visible to many people, which can increase fear and hesitation. Some learners avoid commenting or posting because they worry about grammar or vocabulary errors. At the same time, social media can normalize mistakes when learners notice that even fluent speakers make errors. Understanding that mistakes are a natural part of communication helps learners become more confident. Advanced learners grow faster when they focus on clarity of meaning rather than perfection. Another important aspect to discuss is how social media influences persuasive language. Many posts are created to influence opinions, promote products, or attract attention. This content often uses emotional language, strong claims, and selective information. Advanced learners should learn to recognize persuasive techniques such as exaggeration, emotional appeal, repetition, and simplified arguments. Understanding these techniques improves critical reading skills and helps learners become more effective writers. Learners can also practice persuasive writing by analyzing how messages are structured and why certain posts feel convincing. Social media also shapes humor and irony. Jokes, memes, and sarcastic comments are common online, but they often depend on shared cultural knowledge and context. Advanced learners may understand the words, but still miss the intended meaning. Developing sensitivity to tone, context, and implied meaning is essential at higher levels of English. This skill improves reading comprehension and helps learners avoid misunderstandings in both online and real-life conversations. Another important area is privacy and language awareness. People often share personal thoughts publicly without thinking about long-term effects. Language choices made online can influence reputation, relationships, and professional opportunities. Advanced learners should understand how public language differs from private conversation. Choosing words carefully online shows maturity, responsibility, and advanced language awareness, especially when discussing sensitive topics. Social media also affects how people ask questions. Online questions are often short, direct, and sometimes impolite without meaning to be. In advanced English, knowing how to ask thoughtful and respectful questions is very important. Learners should practice using indirect questions, softening phrases, and polite structures. These skills improve communication in academic discussions, job interviews, and professional settings. Another topic to consider is how social media encourages comparison of language progress. Learners often compare themselves to others who appear more fluent or confident. This comparison can reduce motivation and increase anxiety. Advanced learners benefit from setting personal goals based on their own improvement rather than comparing themselves to others. Language development is not linear, and visible fluency does not always reflect true competence. Focusing on study, personal progress supports long-term success. Social media also introduces learners to different registers of English within the same platform. On a single app, learners may see casual chats, professional advice, academic explanations, and emotional storytelling. Advanced learners should practice identifying these different registers and adapting their language accordingly. This flexibility is a key feature of C1 and C2 proficiency. Knowing when to use formal, neutral, or informal language greatly improves communication effectiveness. Another area to explore is how social media influences reading habits. Skimming has become common because content is endless and attention is limited. While skimming is useful in some situations, advanced learners also need deep reading skills. Complex texts require careful analysis of structure, arguments, and vocabulary. Balancing fast reading with slow, thoughtful reading strengthens comprehension and critical thinking. Social media also affects how feedback is given and received. Online feedback is often brief and emotional, such as likes, reactions, or short comments. Advanced learners need experience with detailed feedback that explains strengths and areas for improvement. Learning how to give constructive feedback in English is also an important skill. It supports collaboration, leadership, and academic success. Another valuable discussion point is multilingual identity on social media. Many users switch between languages or mix languages in their posts. This reflects real-world communication, but it can also create confusion. Advanced learners should understand when code switching is appropriate and when it may reduce clarity. Knowing how to manage multiple languages thoughtfully is part of advanced and flexible language use. Together, these ideas show that social media is not simply a place for entertainment or distraction. It is a powerful space that influences how language is learned, used, and understood. When learners approach it with awareness, reflection, and purpose, social media can become a meaningful part of advanced English growth rather than an obstacle. Maintaining clear boundaries between languages helps learners develop strong control over English. While switching between languages is natural, advanced learners benefit from knowing when to focus fully on English. Social media also influences how people express agreement. Instead of writing complete responses, users often rely on reactions, emojis, or very short phrases. Advanced learners should practice expressing agreement with clear reasons and examples. This skill is essential for discussions, debates, presentations, and academic writing. Clear and thoughtful agreement shows understanding, engagement, and confidence. Another important aspect is how social media affects patience in communication. Online conversations move quickly, and people often expect immediate replies. However, in real-life and professional settings, thoughtful responses are usually more valuable than fast ones. Advanced learners should practice taking time to organize their thoughts before speaking or writing. This habit improves accuracy, clarity, and coherence, especially when dealing with complex topics. Social media also plays a role in shaping moral language. Discussions about social issues often include strong judgments and emotional reactions. Advanced learners need appropriate vocabulary to express values such as responsibility, fairness, empathy, and respect without sounding extreme or aggressive. Learning how to communicate moral ideas in a balanced and respectful way supports meaningful discussion and helps reduce conflict. Another area to examine is how visual content influences language use. Images, videos, and graphics often replace words, which can reduce opportunities to practice descriptive language. Advanced learners should actively practice describing what they see in detail. This skill is useful in presentations, storytelling, reports, and analysis. Strong descriptive language improves precision, clarity, and imagination. Social media can also affect long-term goal setting. Short-term trends and viral content may distract learners from long-term language goals. Advanced proficiency requires consistent effort over time. Using social media as a support tool rather than a main learning method helps learners stay focused and motivated. Clear goals and regular reflection help maintain direction. Another new topic is how silence is interpreted online. Not responding to a message may be seen as agreement, disagreement, or lack of interest. Advanced learners should understand that absence of language can still communicate meaning. This awareness helps them interpret online interactions more accurately and respond appropriately when needed. Social media also changes how authority is perceived. Influencers may appear credible because of popularity rather than expertise. Advanced learners should learn to evaluate content based on language quality, evidence, and reasoning instead of follower counts or likes. This critical evaluation skill is essential for academic study and professional decision-making. Emotional regulation in language use is another important area. Online discussions can easily trigger strong emotions. Advanced learners benefit from learning language that helps manage emotions, such as expressing uncertainty, concern, reflection, or willingness to listen. These expressions support calm, respectful, and thoughtful communication even during disagreement. Social media also introduces learners to global issues and activism. This content often uses persuasive language and emotional storytelling to inspire action. Advanced learners should analyze how language is used to influence opinions and motivate audiences. Understanding these patterns improves both comprehension and ethical communication. Finally, social media reminds learners that language is alive and constantly changing. New expressions, meanings, and styles appear regularly. Staying aware, reflective, and intentional helps learners navigate this environment with confidence and flexibility. By understanding these influences, learners can use social media not only for entertainment, but also as a meaningful space for advanced language development and thoughtful communication. Another important area to explore is how social media affects collaboration and teamwork. Many platforms allow people to work together, share ideas, and solve problems collectively. For advanced English learners, participating in online collaboration develops skills such as negotiation, explanation, and problem-solving. Learners practice presenting ideas clearly, responding to questions thoughtfully, and understanding different perspectives, all of which are essential for effective communication in academic and professional contexts. At the same time, online teamwork can be challenging because tone and intention are not always clear. Without facial expressions or voice, instructions and comments can easily be misunderstood. This can lead to confusion or unnecessary conflict. For advanced learners, practicing patience, asking for clarification, and using active listening strategies are essential for effective collaboration. These habits improve both language accuracy and interpersonal communication. Another important topic is how social media influences creativity. Many platforms encourage users to express themselves through writing, videos, memes, and visual content. For language learners, this creates valuable opportunities to experiment with English, try new expressions, and develop a personal voice. Creativity in English involves choosing words thoughtfully, building interesting sentence structures, and using idiomatic expressions naturally. Social media also provides immediate feedback through likes, comments, and shares, which can motivate learners to keep experimenting. However, it is important to balance social approval with personal growth, so learners do not depend too heavily on external validation. Social media also changes how learners encounter different English accents and varieties. Videos, podcasts, and live streams often feature speakers from many countries. This exposure helps learners improve listening comprehension, understand pronunciation differences, and recognize regional vocabulary. At the same time, learners should be careful not to confuse informal slang with standard English. Listening to a wide range of speakers develops adaptability, which is a key skill at advanced levels of language use. Another area worth discussing is how social media affects critical reading and evaluation skills. Posts, tweets, and online articles often mix facts with opinions, exaggerations, or misinformation. Advanced learners need to learn how to identify reliable sources, recognize bias, and assess credibility. Developing these skills strengthens reading comprehension and analytical thinking. Learners also practice paraphrasing and summarizing complex ideas accurately in English, which is essential for academic and professional communication. Social media also influences empathy and intercultural communication. When learners read posts from people in different countries and cultures, they encounter new viewpoints, social norms, and emotional expressions. Understanding others' perspectives supports language learning because meaning often goes beyond words. Learners become better at recognizing tone, intention, and emotion in English. At the same time, they must develop cultural sensitivity to avoid misunderstandings or offensive language. Another important topic is how social media influences language memory and retention. Repeated exposure to vocabulary, phrases, and sentence structures through posts, videos, and discussions can strengthen long-term memory. Learners can improve retention by actively engaging with content, such as writing comments, creating posts, or explaining ideas to others. Passive scrolling, however, does not support real learning. Intentional and active practice is necessary for language development to be effective. Social media also affects motivation in subtle ways. Seeing others' progress may inspire learners, but frequent comparison can also lead to discouragement. Advanced learners benefit from focusing on personal goals, tracking their own improvement, and celebrating small achievements. Motivation based on personal growth is more sustainable than motivation based on likes, views, or follower counts. Another area to consider is how social media shapes argumentation and debate skills. Online discussions often include strong opinions without clear evidence or reasoning. Advanced learners benefit from analyzing arguments carefully, identifying assumptions, and constructing thoughtful counterarguments. Practicing these skills both online and offline improves clarity, precision, and persuasiveness in English. Learning how to agree, disagree, and respond respectfully strengthens both written and spoken communication. Social media also exposes learners to new idioms, expressions, and figurative language. Memes, jokes, and casual comments often include phrases that are not taught in textbooks. Advanced learners can study these expressions to sound more natural and fluent. At the same time, they should be aware of context and appropriateness, since many idioms are informal or humorous and may not be suitable for professional settings. Another valuable topic is how social media encourages self-reflection and metacognition. Writing posts, creating content, or joining discussions requires learners to organize ideas, choose vocabulary carefully, and consider tone and audience. Reflecting on language use helps learners identify strengths and areas for improvement. This self-awareness is a key feature of advanced English proficiency. Social media also affects attention and focus. Continuous notifications and endless content can make sustained concentration difficult. Advanced learners benefit from managing attention deliberately, choosing when to engage and when to step back. When used mindfully, social media can support creativity, learning, and communication rather than interrupt them. Constant notifications, trending topics, and rapidly changing content can reduce the ability to concentrate on one idea for an extended time. Advanced learners need focused practice to develop complex language skills such as detailed writing, analytical listening, and well-structured speaking. When attention is constantly interrupted, deep learning becomes difficult. Setting intentional limits on social media use, such as study-only sessions or notification-free periods, supports deeper understanding and better long-term retention of language. Another important area is how social media influences persuasion and rhetorical skills. Many online posts are designed to influence opinions or behavior using emotional appeals, repetition, storytelling, or simplified arguments. Advanced learners can study these techniques to understand how language shapes thought and decision-making. Practicing persuasive writing and speaking helps learners communicate effectively in professional, academic, and social situations. Learning how to balance emotion with logic strengthens credibility and clarity. Social media also affects vocabulary development in multiple ways. Learners are exposed to slang, technical terms, trending expressions, and formal vocabulary depending on the type of content they consume. However, exposure alone is not enough. Advanced learners need active use, repetition, and analysis to turn new words into usable language. Understanding nuance, register, and connotation is especially important at higher levels, where word choice can change meaning and tone significantly. Another topic to explore is how social media supports listening comprehension in authentic contexts. Live streams, interviews, discussions, and video content expose learners to different accents, speaking speeds, and natural expressions. Active engagement, such as summarizing content, paraphrasing ideas, or discussing what was heard, strengthens comprehension. Passive listening is less effective at advanced levels because true understanding requires reflection, interpretation, and analysis. Social media also impacts cultural literacy. Learners encounter references to history, humor, traditions, and social norms from many cultures. Understanding these elements improves language comprehension and intercultural communication. At the same time, learners must approach content critically. Not all online representations are accurate, and some may reflect stereotypes or exaggeration. Developing cultural awareness alongside critical thinking supports mature and informed language use. Another important area is self-expression and identity. Social media allows users to create online personas by carefully choosing words, tone, and style. For advanced learners, this is an opportunity to practice expressive, precise, and context-appropriate English. However, learners must balance authenticity with social expectations. Expressing ideas clearly and honestly, without exaggeration, helps build strong and trustworthy communication skills. Social media also influences reading speed and depth. Quick scrolling encourages skimming rather than deep reading. While skimming can be useful, advanced learners also need slow, careful reading to understand structure, tone, and argumentation. Balancing fast exposure with focused study strengthens comprehension, vocabulary development, and analytical thinking. These habits support success in both academic and professional environments. Another key topic is how social media shapes collaborative learning. Online groups, discussion threads, and shared projects give learners opportunities to practice negotiation, explanation, and reasoning in English. Collaboration strengthens clarity, patience, and responsiveness. At the same time, learners must learn to manage misunderstandings, clarify intentions, and adjust tone to maintain effective communication. Social media also introduces learners to global language trends, including new words, creative expressions, and shifts in meaning. Advanced learners should stay curious but selective. Using emerging language thoughtfully can increase fluency without reducing accuracy. Recognizing which expressions are suitable for informal conversation and which belong in professional contexts is an essential advanced skill. Reflection is another major benefit of social media when used intentionally. By analyzing posts, comments, and their own content, learners develop awareness of tone, audience, and language choices. Reflection supports self-correction, adaptation, and strategic growth. Advanced learners who reflect on their social media use build deeper comprehension, stronger expression, and sharper critical thinking. Another important area to explore is how social media affects reading comprehension and critical analysis. Much online content is brief, simplified, or designed for quick consumption. This can encourage shallow reading habits. Advanced English learners need deep engagement with texts to understand complex ideas, identify argument structures, and analyze tone and nuance. By studying social media posts carefully, learners can practice distinguishing facts from opinions and exaggerations. Asking questions such as who wrote the content, what their intention is, and what evidence supports their claims strengthens analytical skills. Social media also influences emotional intelligence and empathy in communication. Reading posts from people with different experiences exposes learners to a wide range of emotions and perspectives. Understanding emotional context improves comprehension and helps learners respond appropriately. Advanced learners must recognize subtle emotional signals in language, such as irony, concern, disappointment, or enthusiasm. Practicing empathetic responses using polite language, softening expressions, and acknowledging other viewpoints develops both language fluency and social awareness. Another important topic to discuss is how social media impacts argumentation and debate skills. Online debates often move quickly and can become emotional or polarized. Advanced learners benefit from learning how to build clear arguments, support opinions with reasons and evidence, and respond respectfully to opposing views. Practicing these skills helps learners communicate with confidence, precision, and maturity in academic discussions, professional environments, and public communication. Taken together, these ideas show that social media is not simply a source of distraction or entertainment. It is a powerful environment that shapes attention, language habits, thinking patterns, and communication styles. When advanced learners use social media intentionally, reflectively, and strategically, it can become a valuable space for language growth, critical thinking, and meaningful interaction. Online discussions often include strong opinions, and users are expected to evaluate evidence, respond to challenges, and build persuasive arguments. For advanced English learners, this environment offers valuable learning opportunities. By observing how opinions are presented, which strategies are used to convince others, and how ideas are organized, learners can strengthen their own communication skills. Practicing how to form counterarguments, agree politely while giving reasons, and structure clear written or spoken responses develops logical thinking, clarity, and confidence when expressing complex ideas in English. Social media also plays an important role in language memory and retention. Repeated exposure to vocabulary, phrases, and sentence structures through posts, videos, and discussions helps strengthen long-term memory. Active participation, such as writing comments, creating posts, or summarizing content, reinforces learning because learners process and produce language actively. Passive scrolling, on the other hand, provides limited benefit since it does not require meaningful engagement. Retrieval practice and repetition in real contexts help learners internalize advanced grammar patterns, collocations, and idiomatic expressions. Another area to examine is how social media influences cross-cultural communication. Learners encounter a wide range of cultural norms, humor, social issues, and communication styles. Understanding these differences requires careful observation, reflection, and sensitivity. Advanced learners need to adapt their language to different cultural contexts while maintaining clarity, respect, and politeness. Exposure to global English use also develops flexibility and awareness of register, tone, and appropriateness. Social media also affects pronunciation and listening skills indirectly. Live streams, videos, and informal conversations expose learners to many accents, speech rates, and everyday expressions. This exposure helps learners understand English in real-life situations. Advanced learners can analyze pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm, and then practice these features in their own speaking. At the same time, they should balance imitation with clarity, focusing on being easily understood rather than copying a specific accent. Another important topic is how social media impacts focus and attention span. Constant notifications, trending topics, and fast-moving content can interrupt concentration. Advanced learners need sustained attention to work with complex texts, listen to detailed explanations, and practice structured speaking. Strategies such as scheduling specific study times, limiting distractions, and choosing content intentionally help improve focus and learning outcomes. Social media also encourages creative expression and experimentation with language. Platforms allow learners to write posts, create videos, and share ideas in English. This practice helps learners explore vocabulary, sentence structure, idiomatic expressions, and storytelling techniques. Feedback from others can motivate learners, but it is important to balance external approval with personal growth. Creativity in language learning supports fluency, confidence, and expressive ability. Another area to consider is social media's influence on vocabulary expansion. Learners encounter slang, technical terms, formal expressions, and new language trends from users around the world. However, exposure alone is not enough. Advanced learners need active engagement, repetition, and reflection to truly learn new words. Analyzing nuance, register, and connotation helps learners choose vocabulary accurately and effectively in different contexts. Social media also affects how learners evaluate information critically. Online content often mixes facts with opinions, exaggeration, or misinformation. Developing the ability to identify bias, evaluate sources, and check credibility strengthens reading comprehension, analytical reasoning, and advanced language use. These skills are essential not only for language learning, but also for academic and professional success. Another important aspect is social media's influence on persuasive communication. Online campaigns, posts, and debates often rely on emotional appeal, repetition, and storytelling to influence audiences. Advanced learners can study these techniques to improve their own persuasive writing and speaking. Understanding how language shapes thought and behavior allows learners to communicate more effectively in debates, presentations, and discussions. Finally, social media supports self-reflection and metacognition. Writing posts, commenting on discussions, and engaging with others require learners to organize ideas, choose vocabulary carefully, and consider tone and audience. Reflecting on language use helps learners recognize strengths and areas for improvement. Advanced learners who develop this habit build strategic language skills that improve both comprehension and production, leading to more confident and effective communication in English. Another important topic is how social media shapes professional communication skills. Platforms such as LinkedIn give learners the chance to write formal posts, join professional discussions, and present ideas to a serious audience. This type of practice helps learners develop formal vocabulary, appropriate tone, and clear structure. Advanced learners must learn how to sound professional while still being natural and confident in their English. Balancing formality with authenticity is essential for effective workplace communication. Social media also introduces learners to digital etiquette and tone awareness. Because online communication lacks voice, facial expressions, and body language, messages can easily be misunderstood. Advanced learners need to understand how word choice, sentence length, punctuation, and formatting influence tone. Learning how to express agreement, disagreement, or criticism politely is an important skill for both online interaction and real-life professional communication. Another area to examine is how social media affects self-motivation and goal setting. Likes, trends, and follower numbers can easily distract learners from long-term language goals. Advanced learners benefit from focusing on personal progress, setting realistic objectives, and tracking their improvement over time. Motivation that comes from self-directed learning is more stable and supports long-term confidence and growth. Social media also influences empathy and intercultural understanding. Exposure to different cultures, life experiences, and social norms helps learners understand how people express emotions, communicate ideas, and solve problems in different contexts. This awareness strengthens advanced language skills and builds social sensitivity. Learners practice responding thoughtfully and respectfully to diverse viewpoints, which is essential for global communication. Another important topic is how social media affects attention to detail in language use. Online communication often values speed more than accuracy. Advanced learners must consciously maintain correct grammar, spelling, and vocabulary, even during fast-paced discussions. This habit supports academic writing, professional communication, and advanced speaking ability. Social media also shapes how learners approach long-form communication. Many platforms encourage short posts and brief videos, which can reduce practice in developing detailed arguments or extended narratives. Advanced learners benefit from balancing short-form content with long-form reading, writing, and speaking. Learning how to organize ideas, support arguments, and explain points in depth strengthens fluency and analytical thinking. Another key area is how social media impacts emotional resilience in language learning. Online feedback can be positive, negative, or neutral, and learners must learn how to respond calmly and thoughtfully. Advanced learners who build emotional resilience are better able to continue learning despite criticism or setbacks. This skill is valuable in academic, professional, and social communication. Social media also encourages adaptability in language use. Learners are exposed to different registers, accents, and cultural styles on the same platform. Advanced learners must recognize when to use formal, neutral, or informal language depending on the situation. This adaptability ensures clear and appropriate communication across different contexts. Another topic to consider is how social media supports collaborative learning and peer feedback. Online groups, forums, and shared projects allow learners to explain ideas, give reasons, and analyze arguments together. Active participation improves clarity, critical thinking, and advanced communication skills. Learners also develop the ability to accept feedback constructively and refine their language use. Social media affects cognitive flexibility in language learning. Exposure to varied content, perspectives, and communication styles challenges learners to adjust how they understand and express ideas. Advanced learners practice recognizing nuance, interpreting meaning accurately, and selecting appropriate language. This flexibility supports fluency, creativity, and intercultural competence. Another important topic is how social media shapes ethical awareness in language use. Sharing accurate information, respecting different opinions, and avoiding harmful or offensive language are essential skills. Advanced learners learn to communicate responsibly and understand the power of language to influence, persuade, or harm others. Ethical awareness is a key part of mature and effective language use. Social media also affects self-pacing in learning. Fast content encourages quick reactions, while advanced language development requires slow, thoughtful practice. Learners benefit from balancing quick consumption with reflection, analysis, and deliberate practice. This balanced approach supports deeper understanding and long-term language mastery. Another area to explore is social media's effect on expressive precision. Emojis, reactions, and short phrases often replace detailed explanations. Advanced learners should practice expressing emotions, opinions, and ideas clearly through words. Precision in expression improves clarity and strengthens communication in academic, professional, and social settings. Finally, social media influences motivation through social comparison. Seeing highly fluent speakers or popular influencers can inspire learners, but it can also lead to discouragement. Advanced learners benefit from focusing on their own progress rather than comparing themselves to others. Measuring success through personal goals builds confidence and supports consistent, long-term learning. Another important topic is social media's role in shaping adaptive language strategies. Learners need to decide when to use formal or informal language, when to be concise or elaborate. Making these intentional choices improves communication, helps others understand better, and keeps the audience engaged. This ability to adjust language according to the situation is a hallmark of advanced proficiency. Social media also encourages curiosity and continuous learning. Exposure to new ideas, debates, and information motivates learners to explore topics more deeply. Advanced learners who engage with content out of genuine curiosity strengthen their comprehension, critical thinking, and ability to express complex ideas clearly. Another area to discuss is how social media impacts narrative skill development. Because much online content is short, learners get fewer chances to practice sequencing events, elaborating on details, or using smooth transitions. To maintain strong storytelling skills, advanced learners should supplement social media with extended writing, oral storytelling, and group discussions. These activities improve coherence, cohesion, and richness in expression. Social media also promotes metalinguistic awareness, the ability to think about how language works. Learners notice how word choice, sentence structures, and tone affect meaning. Reflecting on these observations helps advanced learners adjust their language, clarify their ideas, and communicate with precision. Another key topic is social media's influence on register awareness. Learners encounter formal, semi-formal, and informal language styles in posts, comments, and discussions. Advanced learners must distinguish the context and adapt their language accordingly. This flexibility ensures effective communication in a variety of settings. Social media also enhances persuasive reasoning and rhetorical skills. Posts, campaigns, and debates online often use techniques to influence opinions, such as emotional appeals, repetition, and storytelling. By analyzing these strategies, learners strengthen their comprehension, argumentation, and ability to produce compelling, logical, and clear arguments themselves. Another important aspect is how social media supports intercultural collaboration. Working with people from different backgrounds requires understanding, negotiation, and clear expression. Advanced learners practice using English to bridge cultural gaps and achieve shared goals. Social media also affects learners' ability to notice nuance and subtle meaning. Sarcasm, irony, and humor are very common online. Advanced learners need to interpret tone, context, and implied meanings accurately to avoid misunderstandings. This skill improves overall comprehension, conversation abilities, and critical thinking. Another area is how social media influences self-directed learning. Learners can select content that matches their interests and goals. Intentional and focused engagement increases motivation, vocabulary learning, comprehension, and expression. Advanced learners who combine self-direction with reflection achieve deeper mastery of English. Social media also affects cognitive load management. Rapid information flow, diverse perspectives, and constant notifications require learners to prioritize and filter content carefully. Managing cognitive load well helps ensure understanding, memory retention, and meaningful language practice. Another important topic is social media's impact on reflective practice. Learners can review their own posts, comments, and interactions to identify strengths and areas for improvement. Reflection encourages adaptability, growth, and strategic learning, which are key features of advanced proficiency. Social media also shapes argument structuring and logical reasoning. Many online discussions share opinions quickly, without fully developing ideas. Advanced learners must practice identifying main points, supporting evidence, and logical connections. These skills are essential not only for understanding debates, but also for academic writing, professional presentations, and critical discussions. Analyzing argument structures online helps learners organize ideas clearly, present reasoning step by step, and use effective transitions, improving clarity, persuasiveness, and fluency. Another new topic is how social media affects interpersonal communication skills. Online platforms often replace face-to-face interaction with text, emojis, and short videos. While this allows fast idea exchange, it limits practice with nonverbal cues, tone recognition, and real-time conversational adjustments. Advanced learners should use social media to practice written expression and reflective responses, but also seek spoken interactions to develop full communicative competence. Being aware of differences between online and offline communication helps transfer skills effectively. Social media also requires attention to nuance in language. Posts and comments often convey subtle meanings through word choice, punctuation, and context. Advanced learners must learn to detect these subtleties to avoid misunderstandings. Developing sensitivity to implied meaning, sarcasm, and emotional undertones strengthens reading comprehension, listening accuracy, and expressive precision. This supports communication in academic, professional, and personal contexts. Another important area is how social media impacts critical evaluation of sources. Information shared online varies in reliability, tone, and purpose. Advanced learners must evaluate credibility, detect bias, and distinguish fact from opinion. These skills are essential for academic research, professional decision-making, and informed participation in discussions. Practicing source evaluation also improves vocabulary, comprehension, and argumentation. Learners develop confidence in expressing reasoned conclusions, providing evidence, and discussing complex topics. Finally, social media influences narrative competence and storytelling skills. Because online content tends to be condensed and designed for quick engagement, learners may have fewer opportunities to practice sequencing, elaboration, and coherence. Advanced learners benefit from analyzing online storytelling techniques, identifying story structure, and practicing longer narratives to strengthen their expressive abilities. Developing narrative competence involves organizing events logically, providing clear context, using vivid descriptive language, and drawing meaningful conclusions. These skills are essential not only for storytelling, but also for delivering effective presentations, writing essays, participating in discussions, and engaging in creative expression in English. Another important topic is how social media influences reflective learning and self-assessment. By posting content, engaging in discussions, and reading feedback, learners are encouraged to reflect on their language use, effectiveness, and clarity. Advanced learners develop metacognitive awareness by identifying their strengths, recognizing recurring mistakes, and planning strategies for improvement. This kind of reflective practice strengthens self-directed learning, strategic thinking, and supports long-term mastery of English. Social media also shapes persuasive language skills. Many posts, campaigns, and advertisements are designed to influence opinions. Learners can analyze common rhetorical techniques such as repetition, emotional appeal, and logical reasoning to understand persuasive communication more deeply. Practicing these techniques helps learners express opinions convincingly, write persuasive essays, and participate effectively in debates. These skills also support professional communication and leadership development. Another key area is how social media affects cross-cultural literacy. Learners encounter diverse perspectives, cultural norms, humor, and values from around the world. Understanding these cultural elements enhances comprehension, interpretation, and respectful communication. Advanced learners must recognize context, adapt their language accordingly, and consider audience expectations. Exposure to global English and intercultural differences strengthens advanced comprehension, analytical reasoning, and social awareness. Social media impacts emotional regulation in language use as well. Online interactions often provoke strong emotions, so learners must learn to manage their responses thoughtfully. Advanced learners practice expressing opinions, disagreements, or concerns calmly and clearly. Developing emotional regulation improves communication in professional settings, academic discussions, and interpersonal relationships. Additionally, learning to articulate complex emotions precisely enhances vocabulary and expressive clarity. Another topic is how social media influences lexical development. Learners encounter emerging vocabulary, idiomatic expressions, technical terms, and creative language use. Advanced learners benefit from analyzing meaning, usage, and context. Active engagement, such as incorporating new vocabulary into writing or speaking, helps internalize language and develop expressive flexibility. Selecting appropriate vocabulary for different audiences and contexts is a hallmark of advanced proficiency. Social media also affects attention and focus. Rapid content consumption and constant notifications can fragment attention and reduce deep understanding. Advanced learners must practice sustained focus on detailed texts, complex videos, and multi-step discussions. Developing concentration strengthens comprehension, analytical reasoning, and the ability to engage with sophisticated language. Strategic time management and intentional content selection support long-term language development. Another important area is how social media shapes collaboration and peer learning. Online groups, forums, and shared projects provide opportunities to exchange ideas, explain reasoning, and critique arguments. Advanced learners develop skills in clarity, logic, and negotiation. They also learn to interpret feedback constructively and adapt language for different audiences. Collaborative learning strengthens fluency, precision, and confidence in English communication. Social media exposes learners to varied registers within the same platform. Casual posts, professional discussions, and academic explanations coexist online. Advanced learners must recognize differences in register, tone, and formality, and adjust their language accordingly. This flexibility ensures effective communication across diverse contexts and audiences and reflects advanced pragmatic competence. Another significant topic is how social media encourages cognitive flexibility. Exposure to multiple perspectives, communication styles, and cultural contexts challenges learners to interpret meaning accurately and adapt their expression appropriately. Cognitive flexibility enhances comprehension, creative thinking, and problem-solving in language use. Learners develop the ability to switch smoothly between informal, formal, persuasive, and descriptive language styles. Social media also influences self-directed learning habits. Learners can choose content aligned with their goals and interests, track their progress, and reflect on the effectiveness of their study methods. Intentional engagement fosters motivation, vocabulary growth, comprehension, and expressive skills. Advanced learners who practice self-directed learning gain deeper understanding and greater autonomy in English proficiency. Another area worth exploring is social media's impact on metalinguistic awareness. By observing language in real use, learners learn about word choice, sentence structure, register, and appropriateness. Advanced learners develop the ability to analyze, adjust, and refine their language to suit different contexts and audiences. Metalinguistic awareness supports accurate, fluent, and persuasive communication. Finally, social media influences narrative and descriptive skills. Because posts and videos often emphasize brevity, learners may have fewer opportunities to practice detailed description and narrative sequencing. Advanced learners benefit from supplementing their social media engagement with longer storytelling activities, essays, or presentations to develop greater coherence, richness, and depth in expression. Developing narrative skills enhances coherence, cohesion, and expressive richness in English. Another important topic is how social media shapes persuasive reasoning and argument evaluation. Learners frequently encounter claims, evidence, counterarguments, and rhetorical strategies. Evaluating these elements strengthens comprehension, analytical thinking, and the ability to produce well-reasoned language. Advanced learners develop skills to construct logical arguments, support their opinions with evidence, and respond respectfully in discussions. Social media also influences intercultural negotiation skills. Communicating with users from diverse backgrounds requires sensitivity, adaptability, and clarity. Successfully navigating these interactions fosters advanced English proficiency, empathy, and cross-cultural competence. Another area to examine is how social media encourages reflective engagement with language. By analyzing posts, discussions, and their own contributions, learners identify strengths, weaknesses, and areas for improvement. This reflective practice deepens metacognition, strategic learning, and self-directed growth in advanced English. Metacognition, strategic learning, and self-directed growth in advanced English. Social media impacts expressive precision as well. Learners are exposed to abbreviated communication styles, emojis, and informal language. Practicing detailed expression improves vocabulary, sentence structure, and clarity. Advanced learners develop the ability to convey complex ideas accurately and effectively in both spoken and written English. Another vital topic is how social media affects ethical communication. Learners encounter issues such as misinformation, offensive language, and inappropriate tone. Advanced learners must cultivate the ability to communicate responsibly, evaluate content critically, and choose words carefully. Ethical awareness supports credibility, professionalism, and social responsibility. Social media also shapes collaborative problem-solving. Learners work together on projects, exchange ideas, and provide reasoning. These activities strengthen clarity, negotiation, and logical expression. Advanced learners develop the ability to present arguments, evaluate solutions, and communicate effectively within team settings. Another emerging topic is how social media influences adaptive language use. Learners encounter multiple registers, accents, and cultural norms. Adapting vocabulary, tone, and style appropriately enhances communicative flexibility, enabling effective communication across diverse social, professional, and academic contexts. Social media also affects narrative coherence and discourse awareness. Learners observe how ideas are introduced, developed, and concluded in posts, threads, and videos. Developing an understanding of discourse structure improves writing, speaking, and comprehension in advanced English. Another important area is how social media encourages metacognitive reflection. Learners consider how they understand, produce, and interpret language. This reflection fosters strategic learning, self-correction, and advanced language mastery. Social media impacts expressive confidence as well. Posting, commenting, and interacting build learners' courage to experiment with language, try new vocabulary, and structure sentences creatively. Consistent engagement develops fluency, clarity, and a personal voice in English. Another significant topic is how social media affects sustained attention and deep engagement. Rapid scrolling and fast content may reduce focus on detailed analysis. Advanced learners benefit from practicing concentration on complex texts, long videos, or multi-step discussions to enhance comprehension, reasoning, and language retention. Social media also influences ethical judgment, responsibility, and accuracy in communication. Learners evaluate the potential impact of words, tone, and content before sharing. Developing this awareness strengthens credibility, respect, and advanced English proficiency. Another area to explore is how social media supports cognitive and linguistic flexibility. Learners interpret multiple perspectives, adjust register, and select appropriate language for different contexts. Cognitive flexibility improves problem-solving, creative expression, and adaptive communication skills. Social media encourages self-directed, reflective, and strategic learning. Learners engage with content intentionally, monitor their progress, analyze outcomes, and adjust strategies accordingly. These practices foster autonomy, advanced comprehension, and expressive confidence. A further topic is how social media shapes cross-cultural literacy. Learners encounter diverse norms, humor, emotional expression, and social conventions. Understanding and adapting to these differences improves comprehension, pragmatic skills, and intercultural communication. Social media also impacts narrative and argumentative writing. Learners observe structure, coherence, and reasoning in posts and discussions. Analyzing narrative and argumentative techniques strengthens writing, speaking, and critical thinking abilities. Finally, another important area to consider is how social media affects emotional intelligence in communication. Learners observe tone, emotion, and implied meaning in social media interactions, practicing empathetic and respectful responses. Developing these skills enhances fluency, comprehension, and social interaction. Social media also promotes vocabulary growth, idiomatic usage, and figurative language. Learners encounter emerging words, colloquial expressions, and creative phrasing. Active engagement with this new language reinforces retention, precision, and expressive flexibility. Another important topic is how social media encourages analytical reasoning and strategic communication. Learners evaluate claims, identify assumptions, and construct coherent responses. Practicing these skills strengthens advanced comprehension, clarity, and persuasiveness. Social media also supports collaborative learning, peer feedback, and adaptive interaction. Learners participate in discussions, negotiate meaning, and refine language use. Collaborative engagement develops critical thinking, problem-solving, and effective communication in English. Moreover, social media promotes metalinguistic awareness. Observing language use, register, and tone in posts teaches learners to analyze, adjust, and refine their language. This awareness supports clarity, appropriateness, and advanced proficiency. Social media shapes expressive confidence and creative experimentation. Learners practice varied sentence structures, nuanced vocabulary, and idiomatic phrases. Consistent engagement helps develop fluency, expressive richness, and a personal voice. Another key area is how social media encourages reflective practice, strategic engagement, and long-term mastery. Learners analyze their language use, adjust learning strategies, and develop autonomy. These practices foster sustained growth and advanced English proficiency. Social media also impacts discourse awareness, cohesion, and clarity. Learners observe how ideas are connected and expressed, strengthening writing, speaking, and critical comprehension skills. Additionally, social media influences adaptability, cognitive flexibility, and intercultural competence. Learners adjust to diverse registers, perspectives, and communication styles, enhancing fluency, comprehension, and global communication ability. Ethical awareness, responsibility, and content evaluation are also shaped by social media use. Learners consider appropriateness, accuracy, and tone before posting. Ethical communication strengthens credibility, professionalism, and advanced proficiency. As we conclude this discussion, it is clear that social media has a profound impact on advanced English learning. It offers abundant opportunities to expand vocabulary, improve comprehension, practice critical thinking, and engage with diverse global perspectives. At the same time, it challenges learners to focus, reflect, and communicate thoughtfully in both written and spoken English. By approaching social media intentionally and mindfully, learners can use it not only as a source of information and connection, but also as a powerful tool to strengthen fluency, expressiveness, and confidence. Remember, language learning is not just about exposure. It requires active engagement, reflection, and practice. Social media provides countless ways to experiment with ideas, share thoughts, and refine communication skills. Applying these strategies consistently will lead to improvements not only in your English abilities, but also in your capacity to interact thoughtfully, adapt to different contexts, and understand people from around the world. Keep exploring, stay curious, and use every interaction as an opportunity to grow. Social media is not just a platform. It can be a space for learning, creativity, and connection when used with purpose and awareness.